What some people don't understand is that our function at the Department of Ed is not to, we don't tell teachers how to teach. We don't, write curriculum. We don't, go in and tell schools like this is what you have to do. The scope of our grants tend to be kind of broad, and we want to be able to provide for the children of America.
Today, Department of Education workers returned to their offices, at least those who were not impacted by President Trump's sweeping cuts this week. Nearly half of the workforce was laid off. A group of 21 Democratic attorneys general, they are suing the administration to block the layoffs and the elimination of the department. It is just the latest casualty in Trump and Elon Musk's chainsaw approach to dismantling the federal government. Joining me now is one of the attorneys general who signed on to that lawsuit, Matt Platkin of New Jersey. My AG, thank you so much for being with us. Explain this lawsuit to me.
Look, this administration has been the most hostile federal administration of public education, frankly, in the history of this country. And what they did, through Secretary McMahon's illegal order, essentially gutted the Department of Education, which, as was just noted, funds critical programs across the country. Kids in low-income schools, in rural communities and urban communities, kids with special needs. $500 million goes to New Jersey to fund kids with special needs, services for them that their families rely upon. Girls who are protected from things like sexual assault and harassment in our schools. Pell Grants, 150,000 New Jerseyans rely on Pell Grants to go to college. That's what they're trying to gut. And what we're saying is, if you want to end a federal agency, as President Trump has said very clearly he wants to do, you don't get to do that with a stroke of a pen. You have to go to Congress.
When you talk about all of the things that the Department of Education funds, whether it is making sure that low-income students have the resources they need, special needs students, Pell Grants, the Trump administration keeps saying, don't worry, we're going to find new homes for these things. Why is that not going to work?
As the state, one of the states that would be administering, and I can tell you it's not going to work because we rely on the Department of Education to administer those programs, and we don't have the capacity to stand up and do it ourselves. And I'll tell you, this makes me angry, both as the chief law enforcement officer that's sworn an oath to protect millions of kids in my state, but also as a parent of 2 kids in public school, that both them and their friends, this administration, for politics and for reasons they frankly can't even properly articulate, are threatening these families. 85% of kids rely on public schools, and their families are really going to be harmed by these unlawful actions.
I have both my kids in public school, and I attend the school board meetings every month, and it is notable to me that you have teachers standing up who were very afraid of the fact that their jobs, their ability to teach our students are going to be impacted by these cuts. Let me read you a little bit from your lawsuit. You write, this massive reduction in force is not supported by any actual reasoning or specific determinations about how to eliminate purported waste in the department. Rather, the reduction in force is part and parcel of President Trump's and Secretary McMahon's opposition to the Department of Government's entire existence. The administration's goal of limiting the Department of Education by any means necessary has been plainly and repeatedly stated. President Trump called the department a big con job and declared that he would like to close it immediately. So a few things here, which is they keep trying to justify these firings as waste, fraud, or abuse. Do they have any proof of waste, fraud, or abuse?
Look, this administration, time and again, has used waste, fraud, and abuse, something that I agree we should be taking on. I think most people would agree with that. And I think most people would agree we should be constantly working to improve the educational system for our kids. But I really would love to hear them say how millions and, frankly, billions of dollars that flows to kids in rural communities and urban communities, that make sure we have teachers trained to teach math and science, something that we desperately need to compete economically, that protect young girls from sexual assault, or that make sure people can go to college and afford to go to college, that's waste, fraud, and abuse. I don't think anybody went to the polls in November and said we wanted to eliminate Pell Grants. I don't think anybody went to the polls in November and said if you're a parent of a kid with autism who wakes up every day trying to make sure your kid gets the services you need, that, by the way, your one-on-one aid that kid relies upon to get the education they deserve, fired. That's not what people expected, and that's certainly not what people talk about when they say waste, fraud, and abuse.
I think I agree with you. And I think what some folks, especially in the Republican base, did vote on was this idea of parental choice and of parental control in education. And it would seem to me that the end goal here with what the Trump administration is doing is to privatize education in America. Do you think that's the goal, or do you think it is something else?
Well, they've stated that that's their goal, and they put Secretary McMahon in, a billionaire whose kids went to private school, who has no interest in actually running the department. In fact, she took the job to dismantle the department. Look, I'm a parent. You're a parent. We all want to be involved in our parents' lives, and we all care deeply about choices for our kids. It's what drives us every day. But there's a big difference between saying parents should be involved in their kids' schools and their kids' choices and saying, OK, we're going to take away all of the resources for the 85% of kids that rely upon them. $1 billion flows to my state to ensure that kids in every community get quality education. It makes sure that kids get special needs services that they're legally entitled to. And it makes sure that we are educating our kids the way that I think every parent would hope for. So as a parent, my choice is to make sure that my schools are funded. And that's what the law says, regardless of what anybody thinks.
There's a real irony to being put in charge of a department that you are also asked to dismantle. What you know, what I know, and what maybe Linda McMahon knows is that in order to do that, though, she is going to need Congress. So that will be their fight to fight on the congressional side. For attorneys general, where do you see this fight going?
Well, look, I think it is a fight that should be happening in Congress. But unfortunately, this administration, this president, has acted like a king at every turn. And where he hasn't even tried on this issue to take the legal route that he can go, which is go to Congress. Ronald Reagan tried that. It didn't work because it's a very difficult thing to do legally. So when he can't do something legally, what does he do? He tries to do it illegally. And that's why across the board, we've been undefeated in court in getting his illegal actions that harm our residents, freezing trillions of dollars in spending, cutting Medicaid, giving Elon Musk, the world's richest man, access to all of our data. All of these things we've had to go to court for, and we're batting 1,000 because this administration has demonstrated an utter disregard for the legal constraints on a presidency, and he's hurt millions of people in the process. Well,